My name is Kate Wachowski, and I'm from Hayward, Wisconsin. I started competing in lumberjack sports collegiately at UW-Stevens Point.
I've been competing as a competitive lumberjack. This is going on my 4th year now.
This year's my 20th, so I actually turned 50 this year. My favorite event has always been the single buck. I'm good at it. I understand it. Wisconsin has a huge logging history, but that still doesn't mean that everybody in Wisconsin knows about the sport.
I like to teach about the logging history because it is a big part of our state history. It's a big part of why the Northwoods is the way it is now.
Almost all of the events that we do in lumberjack sports derived from actual work that lumberjacks would do out in the field before chainsaws existed.
Logging in the Midwest really came about starting about the 1850s because out east, the pineries had been logged off and they were looking for new sources of timber. And when they came to the Midwest, they realized, oh my gosh, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota were full of good white pine in particular is what they were looking for. The lumber camps were full of men, and these guys were extremely competitive. And the bosses were, kind of playing them off each other, and these guys knew what was happening, but they were trying to see who could cut the most, who could stack the highest load, who could get the most work done.
And the size of the lumber they were taking down, you think, wow, today's sport is nothing like the work that these guys put in for an 8, 10, 12-hour day. And it just came about, from what I understand, from axe throwing. In the Midwest, we saw and chop either white pine or poplar, aspen.
The gear is expensive and you need a lot of it. You need different gear for everywhere that you compete. So in the Midwest, gear is different from the East. Gear is different from the West, and it's different from way different from the gear down in Australia.
You go down south and you start cutting sweet gum. You need different gear for sweet gum. If I take a white pine or aspen saw down there, I'll tear all the teeth off of it.
Yeah, and axes, a good axe runs over $500 per axe, and most axemen have at least a couple axes per show. So it helps to have more than 10 axes to be competitive. And then crosscut saws run anywhere from $1,200 to $2,200.
For me, my first exposure was Lumberjack World Championships because it's my hometown. Growing up in Hayward, everybody knows about it, and it's been there for 60 years now this year. We all start in the log rolling pond. Every little child, it seems, wants to try log rolling.
It's basically like running, but on a log.
Most of the people that get involved in the sport, I would say, start either in college on a collegiate team or are born into it.
I got into the sport by simply attending a Society of American Foresters meeting at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. I thought, what could be better than swinging an axe between your feet?
I think first and foremost, it's the competitive nature of the sport. I really thrive in individual sports. You're just competing against yourself, and that's something that we try to remind ourselves of a lot in lumberjack sports. You get in a heat with some really competitive people. Oh, I have to chop against Erin Lavoie.
I'm Erin Lavoie. I'm from Spokane, Washington. I've been competing for about 15 years. It's fast. It's not much grace. If something goes wrong, you really can't make it up in this field, so you've got to be completely on your game here.
Kate and I really are good for each other because we drive each other pretty hard. It's gotten to the point where she normally beats me in the underhand. That's a bit of a sore point for me. I normally beat her in the single buck.
We become really close and good friends with the people that we're competing against. We want to win when we're together, but we want to beat each other up when we're not together. So,
of course, we want to win and kind of secretly hope the other one trips up. Who doesn't? That's just competition.
We're often competing directly against each other. So when we're out there chopping, we're going head to head and fighting as hard as we can to beat each other. But then when we're sawing together, we have to just kind of put that aside and work together as best we can.
Come on, folks, it's not gonna take long.
We started sawing together last season, and the first cut was just like, oh, hey, where have you been, Twinny? Kate's a stud. She's so strong. Her attitude is just, she's the best partner in the world.
I definitely don't like losing, but on the same token, I'm practically parents to these people because there's such an age gap between me and them. That's great. They all know that one slip and they'll lose to me. Women's role in the sport when I started was simply complementary to the men. You were there to be a Jack and Jill partner, and that was it.
The women ahead of me have slowly kind of paved the way and picked up chopping now, which many men will still tell you women should not be doing.
You get enough women competing that you start to show that you can field your own event.
I think there are a lot of men that are creating opportunities for women to create our own opportunities. And unfortunately, that's the way it is right now, is that we kind of have to be let in order to create opportunities of our own.
In 2 years, we've gone from having a series to being on the finals deck with the men. That's huge. You know, the men have had this sport for 30 years. Here we come. In 2 years, we're in.
Now there's an insane amount of girls who are fairly close to each other at the top level, which is, it's awesome to see.
We're also very exciting to watch. The girls have personalities. The girls have a lot of feelings.
Women in lumberjacking and in the sport it's growing exponentially. Kate's actually the one who got me into lumberjacking. You know, I learned how to chop an underhand from Kate. I learned how to saw somewhat from Nancy Zaleski. So right now we are on the Menominee Nation Reservation where Menominee Tribal Enterprises, or MTE, is located. The sport is, being expensive is an understatement. So MTE was gracious enough to buy me an axe outright. And just recently I got another sponsorship from them as far as wood. So that's another expense and that's another hassle of being a lumberjack. The wood behind me here is, it comes, from MTE right here in the Menominee Nation. So that's been going on since, 1908 is when the mill really started kicking off.
Our relationship with Hayward World Lumberjack Championships has gone way back, probably at least 15, 20 years. All of a sudden, this young man with ties to the Menominee tribe decides he wants to start competing. So he reaches out and it seemed like a great fit.
Growing up here, going to school in Stevens Point, and then learning about the forest that I grew up on is pretty special because you grow up around it, but you don't really grow up with the science behind it. There's an old saying that goes with it. It's by Chief Oshkosh. So if you start cutting with the rising sun and move across the reservation and with the setting sun, and only taking the dead down and mature trees, once you turn around and head back towards the rising sun, the forest will last forever. Sustainability is pretty big here. Another saying is the Menominee people will last as long as the forest does if we take care of it. Right now, there is more standing timber in volume than there was in 1854 because of the sustainable practices that's been used for the last 164 years.
When you look at a place like the Menominee Tribal Enterprises, where they're logging sustainably and they're looking at it as, let's not take it all. We could log all this at once and make a huge profit. But they're thinking 7 generations down the road. They're thinking about how we can manage this forest so we have a yield for future generations, so our kids and grandkids and their kids and grandkids can go on with a resource that will provide jobs and a beautiful environment to live in for many years to come.
On the reservation, there's a lot of people that struggle to find work in that entry-level area, so that's some of the reasons why we'll pass on technology. The plant, MTE plant, was put here in part to manage the forest and in part to supply jobs for the Menominee people. So when you propose something that's going to put maybe 7 people, 8 people out of work, you decide it's more important to have these jobs.
Having other races in the sport of lumberjacking is pretty rare. I myself am the second Native American that has made it in the professional ranks. I'm the first Native American, to my knowledge, that has won the collegiate series. The one person that comes to mind in my family when it comes to getting into the sport is my little sister. She's currently 15, gonna turn 16 pretty soon, and her goal is to make it to the women's professional championships by 18. If she could make it there, she would be the first, Native woman to, make it on that stage.
What I like about swinging an axe is I like to get mad about it so I can actually take it out on wood instead of taking it out on people. I would love to be the youngest girl at the steel competitions. Milwaukee was probably the best part of it because the girls were really strong, so I'm hoping to be like that. So I'm really competitive. I'm hoping to reach the top level and going on to what Rainer did and what he's doing right now.
Oh, this year is a big year for her. I bought her first axe and we're gonna start training together.
Feels like 5 pounds, but probably a little more than that. I'm used to this because I've been working out to actually hold this.
She's sort of like my pseudo coach. Everywhere I've went, she's traveled with me.
I'm big on my culture, so I would love to see other cultures. The traveling is the excitement mostly because I haven't been anywhere besides Missouri and Hayward and all that. So that's the furthest I've ever went. I'm stuck in a small town.
She knows a great deal about the sport and some of the technique that's in it because she'll often yell at me if I'm doing it wrong. So, I can't wait to get her started and, have her train with Kate Witkowski and Nancy Zaleski.
It's really fantastic for the next generation to see that this has come this way, and we'd really like you to now step in and take it to the next level.
There's a lot of young women coming in addition to all of the veteran women, and that has made it really a lot more competitive and I think a lot more fun.
People say, well, how much longer are you gonna compete? I don't know, 10, 15 years? I plan to compete until I'm in my 60s. I don't know how you get the sport more into the mainstream. I certainly think TV exposure helps. I think any sort of documentaries on this help. I'd like to see it continue to grow around the world. I would love to see there be a World for Women.